All right.
Thanks. Precious, I'm good to go. Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm kind of excited to share what we've been cooking for the last few months. Um, our nice little project called Tublian operating system. Our mission always has been improving developers' life. This always has been mission. Everything that we do, um, and our goal is always to amplify your capabilities and achievement. That's everything that we do about the product. Even the TOS today that we're going to be talking about is exactly points to that. How can we help you scale? How can you help you build amazing things? We have a thesis that kind of drives everything that we do in our company here. We believe, and I probably have shared that many times with our community members. Some of you probably heard this before, and sorry for the repetition. Um, as AI accelerates and reduces software development cost, we believe there will be a rise of software. There will be huge demand. There is going to be rise of software demand for software. What that means is that we developers, I'm also a developer, we need to scale up. I know this sounds kind of weird and oxymoron a little bit, but if you think about it, there is always has been demand for software. But building software is kind of an expensive proposal. But for the first time in our life, we have an opportunity where the cost is essentially going down. That means the people who are in the sideline waiting for or not able to build software because it's expensive will join the market. That means there's going to be a huge influx of demand. So one of the things what we were doing with TOS, so before we get there, we want to define what TOS is, and it's kind of probably going to be obvious. We said that multiple times. It's an operating system for software development. The operating system is used as a metaphor. We're obviously not building Windows or Unix kind of operating system. But what we're trying to do here, and I think that metaphor really helps, helps kind of describe the problem we are solving, is that what we did is essentially we kind of zoomed out a little bit and looked at what all things we need to do as a developer. Again, we are very much focused on developers. We are not building anything for project managers or system analysts. We're focused on, for a developer, especially if you're independent or freelancer, which I believe the market is trending towards. More and more people going to be freelancing in software development or become a freelancer. There are lots of stuff we do to deliver a package or deliver a project. So what we have done is that we kind of zoomed out, looked at end-to-end process and see what all things that we can augment with automation and AI. That's what the operating system is about. Because our goal is to empower you to build software at scale. The scale is very, very important here because as the demand goes up, what the problem that we're going to be facing is that we are not able to meet all the demand because there's still so much requirement to build software. So that's why what we're trying to do is that empower developers to build software at scale. So if you think about this is EU, what we've looked at is that all the things that developers really don't like to do, can we list those things out and see can we automate them? For an example, as a developer, we like to build cool stuff, right? I want to solve that more challenging problem, not go down and figure out and solve that CSS issue that I'm having in the project. Or I rather build something interesting, not spend hours and hours figuring out where that bug is coming from, for an example. Another way to think about it, as a developer, we are, most of us are quite introvert like me. It takes a lot of courage and energy for me to come in present like this. I rather put my headphone on and code. So if I start to do freelancing, like lots of you do that because of your various constraints and geographic location and whatnot, we don't, we are, for an example, we don't excel at business development, right? We are not really good at sales and figuring out, hunting for projects. There, that's where we feel like an AI agent will be a perfect example to do that. What if we build an agent that goes out while you sleep, goes out, figures out all interesting projects for you because we know your street cred. And as you wake up, it say, hey, there is a 3 interesting projects I found for you. Maybe you should take a look at, for an example. Project management, on the other hand, right? We rather build stuff. Oh, who's going to manage this? Doing figuring out task management, story backlog. That's a good example of building a project management agent. Estimator. Developers suck at estimation, but that's another thing we have to continuously do if we do a freelancing project, for an example. Okay, how long is it going to take you to build this? Oh, it's going to take me 2 weeks. It's end up 2 months. So imagine an agent that has the smartness and the data to and understand the project requirement and gives you, no, I think for you it will take 3 months, or for you it will take 2 weeks. So those were some of our ideas. So imagine yourself, I'm going to kind of teleport you into the future where you're using Tublian OS. So your software development ecosystem is surrounded by this multiple agents, doing all those chores and stuff, that work that you don't want to do, so that you can be laser focused on stuff that you really like to do. That's our mission. So this is kind of, the intention is not to confuse you or complicate you, but kind of extending the idea of operating system metaphor and kind of mapping that out in one paragraph here, one slide here, sorry. So what the input to the operating system going to be is your, and I mentioned this over and over again, your limitation is your ambition. We're going to be surrounded by really, really smart tools. There is nothing that you can't build. So input to this is going to be your ambition, your street cred, creativity. Your street cred is going to drive you, your kind of social credits, right? That's going to drive opportunities coming to you. So multiple projects, multiple opportunities coming to you, and you're using Tublian operating system to execute all those projects. So the operating system we're going to build will have obviously this multiple agents. It's going to have this capability of accessing multiple tools, web, and all that stuff, all the information that we need to process, and kind of augment your software development workflow. Stop me if you guys have any question. So this is obviously a grand vision of what we're trying to do, right? We are, again, a very small team. So one of the things that we are starting with is what I'll be demoing today is developer agent. This agent is implemented. I mean, we are continually building it, obviously, but we're getting into the point where we are seeing some interesting results with this. That's why I talked to Precious and said, maybe this is a good time to share with the community. Like he said, I would love to have you guys play with this, a handful of you, obviously, so that I can get some feedback, so that we can together build something that can help us unlock all the opportunities that be coming towards us. If you look at the developer agent, it has kind of 4 core capabilities that it's important to kind of talk about. One is planning. Obviously, it's not smart like you guys. You guys are rock star here, but it does have a decent amount of capability to kind of break down complex tasks. So if you assign a story, it's smart enough to kind of understand, okay, what all things I need to do to implement this feature, for an example. It does have a memory, and this is where I think we heavily focus on, because most of the projects out there are brownfield projects. We hardly get opportunities to work on a brand new greenfield project or go build this system for me. Usually what happens is that you get dropped into a project that's 10-year-old, say, go fix that issue. So one of the things that we're doing with memory is that we are adding this capability to this agent that it can work with existing code bases. Doesn't matter how large that is. We are not limited by context window. So it could be a huge project like React.js, or it could be your small open source project, but it will understand your existing code base and continues to learn as you walk through this agent about your style, how you implement things, so that it almost going to become your sidekick. It does have a capability of action. That means is that we heavily integrate with GitHub workflow, and you're going to see that in the demo. So this is autonomous agent. That means one of the things that you have to understand is that this is very different than Copilot. If you're using Cursor or VS Code, or you're using GitHub Copilot, you have a kind of very active interaction with that tool. You ask something, you prompt it, and gives you a reply. On the other hand, developer agent will be your workflow going to be typically is, let's say a couple of issues got assigned to you by your manager or by your client. First thing you're going to be doing is that, hey, I need to do something else. Hey, agent, why don't you take a look at these two issues? And it will go behind the scene, work on the agent, work on those issues, and try to propose a solution for you. Okay. Sometimes the solutions will be like, okay, this is perfect, I'll merge it. Sometimes it will be 70% where it's okay, let me take over and fix it. Okay. So it has this capability of doing PR generation. The other thing it does is that it heavily relies on existing tools and ecosystem. It does have a capability to integrate with CI/CD pipeline. So for an example, if your project is using unit test cases, it will run those test cases to validate its solution. If the solution, if it fails, it has the capability to auto-correct itself. You will see that some of this in action. Any questions so far? Okay. So I kind of mentioned this already. The workflow is very simple. It will bake into your existing, nothing you have to change, okay? It's gonna work with the way you build software. It starts with, the trigger is usually an issue, or it could be a feedback. So like I said, every time, that's what we're doing with some of our pilot customers right now, where we say, okay, assign issues to this. Even if you think you're gonna work on it, assign that issue to it, because it is smart enough to go behind the scene, do a bunch of stuff for you already, and so that you can focus on something else. So it does pick up an issue. It spends some time doing solution and planning. If it has any questions, sometimes it get confused, like it happens to us, right? I get a story gets assigned to me. There are some questions I have about the story, so it will reach out back to you as a feedback with some set of questions. Well, you want me to fix this, but what about this? Okay, it has the smartness to do that. So assuming it has enough context to solve that problem, it will immediately go to implementation stage, where it spends some time generating solution. Again, figuring out which existing code base, which files to change, all that stuff happens here, and it will create a pull request. And this is the whole feedback loop, right? And like in any team member, you'll review the pull request. And in this interaction, you are the lead, and this agent is your kind of intern that you hire to help you. So intern push the pull request, you will look at that, you might provide a feedback. When you provide a feedback, it again goes back in the loop. That's how it works. And there's endless, you can continue to do this forever if you want to. Okay. Even though we say it's an agent, one of the amazing things about AI is, you probably guys already experienced this, is that sheer amount of scale that is possible with this kind of tool. So behind the scene, we kind of architected as, even if you assign an issue behind the scene, it's kind of a small team of kind of minions. Minions is a good way to think about this. You have a team of minions underneath. So the way architecture, you guys are technical, that's why I'm going a little deep here. But the architecture is that whenever issue gets assigned, there is kind of an orchestrator, essentially a lead agent, a lead for that particular project. It will understand what that issue is. And we work with large code bases. That means a code base could have multiple sub-modules and projects. The way we scale it is that for each sub-module, so for an example, if you're working on a project, that project would have a backend APIs. It will have a middle tier of a bunch of libraries, and it could have a front-end code base, right? Kind of a 3 different domain. So the way we kind of scaling it, way people usually do, I know lots of people said full stack developers here, but there are lots of developers out there who are I'm a backend specialist, I'm a front-end guy. So that's how we thought about it. So if this is a front-end, lead agent will assign to a front-end agent that is capable of solving front-end problem. Similarly, there will be an agent solving a back-end problem. Now, the way we are trying to solve the standard problems of hallucinations and all other stuff that you keep hearing about large language models is that we have a tremendous feedback loop. Every time you do a generation, imagine there is another QA agent dropping in and validating the solution. And it does essentially a tag team and have that conversation. Hey, I want to solve the solution like this. QA agent will jump in. No, that doesn't solve that problem. Go figure out a better way to do that. And they will have that conversation. All right. So what are the use cases? For use cases, like I mentioned this already, bug fixing and analysis, some of the stuff the chores that we really don't want to do. We thought that we want to optimize our agent to focus on stuff like that. This is great at doing those analysis. And this is, in fact, one of the things that I feel like will give you superpowers, especially working on new projects. There's kind of onboarding phase for us, right? Typically, when we get assigned to a new project, sometimes depending on the complexity of the project, it could take weeks, months, figuring out how do I make the change. And it happened to imagine some of you have done that open source internship. You probably could relate to that. You use Tublian.com. Tublian.com specifies, oh, this is a nice little open source issue, go fix it. You go to the brand new open source project and like, where should I start? This has like hundreds of files. Which file should I change? This agent will be great at it. I mean, AI is great at mining data. This agent will take what takes weeks, it takes minutes in this world. It will be able to figure out, okay, for you, here's a subset of files you should take a look at, for an example. We heavily focus on working with legacy code bases. This is a different type of problem than typically other AI tools are going for. It's I'm not going to go names here, but it's relatively, if you spend enough time solving this problem, it's relatively easy to have AI tools generate a new web app for you versus having an AI agent go fix a problem in an existing code. This is like completely different type of problem. That's why if you see been not around the active in community is where banging my head to figure out how to solve that problem. It's been a humbling experience building this. Obviously, this would be a great tool for contributing to open source. Wink, wink, wink. There is something coming here that will tremendously help you guys. Definitely, we focus heavily on freelancing projects. I know some of you are already doing that. Think of this, imagine what you can do if you have a sidekick like this. And last but not least, essentially speed up software development process. Like I said, what takes us days in this world is minutes. So that difference of scales changes everything. We do have ability to work with various LLM models. The version that we're going to be sending out to some of you guys, I mean, all of you guys should get access because you joined the call for sure. I'll make sure Precious keep a note of that. We are building such a way we understand not everybody has that luxury or money to spend on get access to latest and greatest paid models. So we're going to be shipping by default with Llama 3.1, which is free, which should give you all of you an ability to play with this agent without paying money. We have an ability to fine tune this, and this is super powerful, guys, where not only we can have this agent solve problems for you, we can have this agent solve problem like you will do. There's a little difference here because I solve problem very differently versus you do. So it can mimic that, it can learn that kind of patterns and design patterns and the way you approach problem. and fine tune the model that way. That will be, we have that capability. We want to make it free for developers, especially our community members. That's our mission. Everything we do in Tublian is free. My point, we wanted to get pay for the 80/20 creds, but we decided to make it free. So if you're running out of creds, let me know. I will add it for you happily. There would be some constraints we need to put in what you can do with free version, but most of the stuff that you guys do, you should be able to. Any question before I jump into demo? How much time? Okay, I spent way too much time on this already. All right. Okay, let's do some demo here. So what I'm going to do is some version of this demo I did, I think it's on YouTube, but I will show something else that probably makes a lot of sense here. So you guys see my screen okay, correct? Okay, cool. All right, so this is one of our one project, obviously. We trying to dog food this. My goal is to use this agent to build the agent. That would be super cool. That's what I want to do. So anyway, so we have this widget project. We essentially use this backend project that powers up lots of widgets in our tublian.com. Okay. So the reason it's important that this is a private code base, that means none of these models has been trained on this data. None of this. These models haven't seen this data before. I just want to emphasize that here. So what I've done is that's a typical workflow. We have a bunch of bugs in here. We'll take a simple one here just to demonstrate the capability here. So I've created there is a bug in YouTube handler. What I did is that, and then I assigned it to the agent. So when you think about this agent is that it's just another collaborator in your project. Okay, just add it to your GitHub, and it has webhook and all that back stuff that it will automatically pick it up. So this is the issue I wrote. More context is better, but I've noticed in cases like one line of this is good enough for the agent to kind of catch and solve the problem. So the issue that we're trying to solve here is not a complicated issue. We had a hard-coded value of 20. We want to change it to 25. I understand this is just for the demo. What I want to highlight here is the idea of agent going in and figuring out where to change. I think that's what I want to highlight in this demo. Changing a value to 20 to 25 is not a hard problem. So it's fairly complicated. We are in a startup mode. I hack a bunch of stuff. Code is not pretty. So time to time, agent struggles here. We'll see how it goes in live demo here. So it's a pretty complicated code base. It's Node.js, serverless framework, and all that good stuff. Okay. So let me go here and run the agent. So typically, you guys will run it some sort of a Docker image that we're going to ship out in next week or next couple of weeks. But here I have the project. I'm in the main branch. I'm just going to go run it from the main branch to see how that goes. The couple of another disclaimer. Sorry, I know I'm probably giving excuses here, but another disclaimer, since this agent is autonomous and behind the scenes, there is not an UI yet. We have an UI in the draft that we're going to ship it out when we release this. But we haven't built the UI because we don't need to interact with this agent because it's always behind the scene. So for this demo purposes, what I'm going to use is that I'm going to use something called textual, which allows you to build UI, console-based UI, so that you can see the steps. Okay. So I've already prompted that that I want this agent to solve this issue here. Bug in. The issue number is 106. Okay. So I'm going to run the agent here. So what you're going to see here is a workflow. What essentially we did to implement this is kind of a reverse engineer how I solve the problem. So remember the lead agent, this is where the lead agent comes in. Lead agent first analyzes the issue. Now, every project that you point this agent to, it needs to understand the structure of the project. Remember, only information that we feed in is your GitHub URL and the issue number. So it needs to figure out the context, what I'm dealing with, what type of project it is. Then it goes into what we call summarizing the issue. like what's the code? This is still in the planning phase. If you remember the slide that we're talking about, so it's actually in the planning phase right now. Then it goes in and figures out the app flow. This is where what it's doing is it's essentially looking at, given this issue, which all files are affected. I need to understand the structure. This is what I was saying, guys. It took a couple of minutes to do this. Imagine having this tool when you're working in open source code base, an unknown open source code base. The speed of this is kind of crazy. It determines the problem relevancy, which is important in multiple modules. So if, let's say, for an example, if you have a monorepo is the word, right? Monorepo of multiple modules here, but the issue is related to only the backend module, not the front end. It needs to figure it out. The difference between this init and this init is that at this point, lead created a solution plan, like an experienced developer saying, okay, this is how you should solve it, and then assign it to intern. This init is actually a developer agent. There was a handoff here, a developer agent picked it up. It goes through a bunch of stuff in here. There's a bit of complexity in here that we have various solving strategy, which is another interesting aspect that we are exploring. That means we can A/B test solutions. That was almost impossible to do when we had a human developer doing this because our time was so precious. But now, since these things are so cheap, I can have multiple solvers saying, try to solve this problem with 3 different approaches and see which one works. So we totally have that capability. So in this case, I'm using the solver, which is called do the simplest thing that could possibly work. So it exactly follows that. Now, next thing what it does is that it walks through this, it figures out, okay, does this project have test support? Now we have multiple verification methods, not only test. If the project has linter, it will pick up the linting tool and use that linting tool. If you're working with the Java code bases, then it will use the compiler and the test cases to use as a feedback mechanism. This is feedback. So every time you're changing code, the apply code is changing code here. It's actually running the test to validate, hey, what do I need to, so it's actually determining the test quality, obviously here. Is my implementation, is my changes make sense to you? And can spend time here doing stuff like this. So what I've done here is, while this is going to save time, I just right before the demo, I created a pull request using this agent. So take a look at what that output product looks like. So when it completes this, this is what you're going to see in your project. A pull request created by the agent. It would, I'm using a different commit, it's called conventional commit strategy to propose a solution. Hey, I'm proposing solution for issue number 106. It links to that issue. Then the beauty of this is that, and we collected this feedback, that lots of time when an agent does this, there has been complaints saying, I don't know why it's doing it. I want to understand what approach it's using to solve that problem. So we took that feedback and kind of implemented a documentation sort of way. So this is how agent communicates with you, right? So agent is saying, okay, this is how I summarize the problem. Here is a solution plan I've used. Here is the implementation plans. I did run all the tests, it's passing. Sometimes it will not pass. It will say I'm getting an error. Sometimes it will say, okay, I need more clarification to do that. So all this will come through some sort of GitHub pull request mechanism. So if you go into change 2 files in here, it figured out the credit score. Actually, this is the file we use, by the way, to determine everybody's street cred. This is one JS file. So here, anyway, so it identified this file has 500 line, guys. Okay, going through 500 line and pinpointing which line is to change. That's the power I wanted to demonstrate here. Not only that, it also figured out which test cases are failing. It will update the test cases necessary and in fact add new test cases to make sure the changes are actually working. Any questions? Okay. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to share here. The announcement that I have is, I wanted to keep it short here. I already took way too much time. I want to save some time for questions. Okay, so we want to give this out for all of you to play with. Use that for your project, maybe freelancing project, open source contribution, especially on open source or your public open source projects, and love to get some feedback. With that said, any questions?
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Nelanjan, for that interesting session. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, good, good, good. Okay, so I think there's someone. I think it's Oluwatobi. Meanwhile, guys, let's give some reactions for Nelanjan, please. Let's appreciate him. Let's, if you enjoyed the session, please,
thank you.
some confetti, clapping, anything it is for you. Yeah, thank you so much for that wonderful session. All right, so I think there's some questions. Oh, God. Sorry, I was talking with my mic off. My laptop muted me. All right, so I think we have some questions in the chat section. But before we get into the question, I'm going to stop the recording now. So yeah, so I think Neil, can you see the question, or do you want me to read it out for you? See, there is one from Oluwatobi. I can't hear you. I think your mic is muted.
Thank you. Sorry, I forgot I didn't share the output. So this is what the end result looks like for the agent, and then I will answer your question, I promise. So use a solver, it updates the test, then it runs the test, then it adds the PR comments, the comments that you said, and then it will create a PR request. That's essentially the end of that flow. You can again continue that flow by, okay, I didn't like how you fixed that problem. You add a feedback on the PR, then it will again start the process. This is what essentially the process looks like. Sometimes it can spend times in here. For an example, in this case, it actually ran successfully first time. It doesn't happen all the time, to be really honest with you. Sometimes it struggles. The test will fail, then it can spend repeat in loop and figuring out what the failure is and continues to kind of solve that problem. I just wanted to kind of share that. Okay, yeah, I'm ready for the question. What's the question? It's really cool because I'm wondering, can it help developers by automatically doing some of the boring coding tasks so that they can focus on? Yes, that's exactly Olenka, that's exactly our mission. That we want you to do exciting stuff, so that so essentially think of this agent as a doing stuff like chores for you, stuff that you don't want to do, hand over to this agent so you can do the creative stuff. That essentially I've been saying over and over again. I do not believe this is a replacement or AI agent's going to replace us. I don't believe in that version at all. What I believe in is that I think we should embrace this, because this is going to improve quality of our life, if that makes sense. Yeah, linting, can it design, learn how developers work, make suggestions to help write better code? Yes, it can. So the question is, sorry, I know you're recording, maybe should ask the question. Question is, can it be designed to learn how developer works and make suggestions to help them write better code? So that's not the use case we are directly solving, because that's where I think co-pilots are there. There are tools like PR review agents by other companies that kind of provides you feedback. We solely focused on it being itself on kind of a junior developer, but it does have a capability to learn, if that makes sense. It'll be smooth when it will be delivered for. Yes, I agree. It will be. You can't trust me. we're working day and nights to make this work. I love for you guys to try this out. Any other question, thoughts,
Yeah, so
concerns?
yeah, so please, if you have any other question, this is where you just raise your hand, and then we are done with the questions in the chat box. So if you have any question or comment or anything you want to say or share, you can. This is the point where you raise your hand, and we'll call you up
And
to speak.
if you want to contribute, you want to be part of this project, also let me know. I know it might be complicated with licensing and whatnot, but I'll figure it out. Okay, there are lots of interesting issues we want to solve. If you're very interested to do some exciting stuff, let me know,
Yeah. All right, Neil. So I think I have some questions though. I think I have some questions just to help
please.
us understand,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
how it works and how it flows. So I want you to like go over like the installation process, especially for the version that we'll be releasing to the developers. So how is the installation process?
Yeah. So we had we have yeah. That's a great question. So we have the way we want to do this is couple of ways because there are complications in here. The default one that we're going to be releasing is kind of a package like a Docker image, essentially a Docker compose file, if that makes sense. That you should be able to kind of download and run to build your local environment where agent is running. The input to that agent going to be essentially there are a couple of things you have to do. You have to point that agent to a project, saying, hey, agent, work on my open source project here. And we will provide that steps. It's pretty easy. You just feed that in. And next thing you have to do is just assign an issue and it will start working. So the default Docker package will be based on Llama 3.1, and we will ship it with uh, there is another person in our team. I don't know whether he's in the call. He's kind of working on it. So we'll ship with kind of that model itself. So it's going to be self-contained. You don't have to download anything, nothing. It will work. Now that does have some challenges in terms. I don't know whether you guys have tried running large language models like Llama in your machine. It does have a bit of system requirements, right? I mean, if you don't have GPUs, it's kind of hard, it's slow. So we're going to provide another alternative where you should be able to kind of share your keys, maybe keys to your AWS account. Maybe you do Azure AI. Maybe you have an API account with
Okay,
Claude, maybe Gemini, what have you. Then
okay,
we
just
can also have this version of the agent that will work with your account of large language model, if that makes sense. So it has capability to work with multiple other models. In that case,
okay,
the
perfect.
Docker image will have only the agent, so it will be smaller footprint, obviously. I think that for an example, you could use
So
this
what
agent.
recording is called?
Maybe I'm not answering the question. So you could use this agent, just deploy the agent locally, then point that agent to your Grok Cloud API, and it will work.
All right. Thank you very much, Nilanjan, for that explanation. I mean, we'll be coming up with a documentation also just to support some of the things that
Correct.
the steps you need to take
Correct.
to install. And then, yeah, I just want to know the second question I have is with getting it started. Like, I know you talked about the setup, pointing it to Grok and running locally on your machine. So I want to know about the point of usage. So maybe because I'm working on the team, so I know it works on GitHub, so you have to integrate it with a project. So, but then I want you to go through the so after I'm done with the installation, the usage part. I want you to explain that part. Yeah.
Okay. So once you have the agent configured, whatever way you're configured it, running locally with Llama 3 or pointing to Grok Cloud or GPT-4, whatever that setup is. Once the setup is done, the agent is ready. Well, what you need to do now is you have to point to the project. So we are building an UI, believe it or not. We have a front end, sort of a dashboard that will be connected to your Tublian account, your user account. Um, so depending upon how fast we can release that, that would be an ideal version. That means when you log into Tublian.com account, like usual, you will have some sort of
Now,
sidebar action where you can say
let me
agent
just see if
dashboard.
follow still
In
happening.
that agent dashboard, once you go there, there will be an UI where you could say assign project. Like you have a developer, you want to treat this. I think this is the
Sorry.
best way to think about this. This is a kind of a junior developer that you just have access to. You'll assign the junior developer to a project. The way you do that is just paste the URL of a GitHub project. For initially, we're going to restrict this agent to only work on public projects. So you can assign to your public React.js or some other project you want to contribute to, whatever. Now that then you're going to get feedback. The agent is going to say is that, okay, I have access to the project. I'm done. Okay, now give me some issues. And that's there where you just input the issue number and it will do the rest.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So, you guys, so the agent works on public repository, and then you just need to input the issue number, and then it goes in and it gets the job done. So, I think the other question I want to ask.
So we did
Okay.
sorry, there were a couple of other additional modes in here. Like you can work in assist mode. For an example, you don't want the other person to know that AI Tublian AI agent contributed this, right? So, so because you are using it as an helper, right? So there is a mode that you can set to this agent where it will make the changes and it will keep the changes on your local environment. Okay, then you can commit if you want to using that.
I think that's an interesting one though, because I know some companies do not want to see some bots making contributions to them. That would be an
They will
interesting
not.
one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think there's a chat box. I don't know if you want to answer that. I
I
think
mean,
it's
it's
from.
not interesting in a sorry. Yeah, no, I know. I'm on the answer. It's not interesting because whenever before AI, we used to use Stack Overflow to solve our problem, but we never put in the commit message saying that I solved that problem using Stack Overflow. Did we? No. So if I'm a manager, I really don't care. I want my problem to solve. If you use AI agent or if you use somebody else to solve, I mean, right? And that's what I believe. Sorry, there is a question.
Yes. Yes.
I'm sorry, this is a stupid question, but I need to ask as I do not have much knowledge in AI. That's okay. When the developer provide prompt to write the code, how to code, how to the Tublian OS act, like how AI figures out what to generate. So you don't give prompts. So again, this is Afsal Hassan. Afsal, uh, so this is not Copilot, right? When you work with GitHub Copilot, you are, go ahead, ask your question. I think you raised hand. Okay. So you don't prompt it. Well, the input to this agent is the issue, the problem that you want to solve. If you're calling that as a prompt, then yes, that's the only input. How AI figures out how to generate. So the way it figures out, obviously, you saw the steps, right? It is not, it's not one shot prompting here. We we're following a process here to build it, because code generation is probably the easiest thing. I think in general, you will notice with other AI tools is that it generates way too much code that is needed. That's actually the problem. So the way we solve it, the way AI is doing it, our agent is doing it in particular, is that it's following the process, right? It goes through the planning phase where it figures out, okay, where should I make the change? What is the problem? Uh, if that's the problem, how this problem affects the code base, or which part of the code base is affected. So it goes through this kind of self-reflection process. Then it figures out, okay, now I see the code. It's working with existing code base, right? So it already seeing the code that you have implemented, and it identifies, okay, here is a problem I see, and that gives enough context to these models to generate solution. Now I be transparent with you that there are times where it struggles. Sometimes it overdoes thing where I, as a developer, and think like saying, I would not do that. Why are you doing this? It doesn't make sense. So that's where I think we have a capability, and there is an opportunity to train this agent the way you want. If that, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so from Chakit. Chakit raised his hand. So yeah, Chakit, we'll get to you. But I think this question tied to the other question I wanted to ask you earlier before Afi's question came in. So I wanted to ask, I mean, during your presentation you mentioned that okay, it gives me a solution and I want to make an adjustment saying that okay, I want you to so the point of communication, that was what I wanted you to talk about. So you want you to talk about the point of communication, yeah, how, let's say you don't like the results, you wanted to make this adjustment, you wanted to affect this, how do we communicate with it on that level? Just after that we'll go on to check it to know what his question is.
Okay. Um, so if you so it works very the way typical GitHub workflow works, right? So nothing is different for an agent. So if I'm in your team, Precious, you are my lead. You assign me a work, I will implement the work and I will create a pull request. Right? Pull request is a great mechanism way where we collect feedback. Okay. Um, the other way people do is pair programming, and this is that's a different type of way to solve that problem. But there are other ways to do that too. But in the pull request, which is great, it typically has become more popular because now for the distributed team, right? I work with Ray, I work with Precious. We are all over the world, and how do we communicate? We use pull request. So when the agent generates pull request, like I was showing you, pull request has sections to add review. So you see the delta code changes. Like any pull request, you can identify a line and add a comment saying that, okay, this doesn't make sense, or use this. Uh, because remember, this is a junior developer or intern, right? It's not experienced like you are. So when that's the way you provide feedback. When you submit your review, in a cases where this automation is built in, it automatically sends a signal to a feedback to the agent. So go out there, look at the pull request, read the feedback. It already understand the changes it made because it has that context. It will read the feedback, and then again the same cycle. Feedback will be treated as another problem I need to solve. So, like in the demo, it will go through the same cycle and figuring out what changes I can do, and that's how it's going to update.
All right, thank you very much for answering that. Hi, Chakit. Chakit, do you want to answer your question now?
Yeah, Niranjan. So you mentioned in the presentation that it has its own memory, this agent. So let's say that ideally in a team environment, you have a lot of developers working on the same code base and they make changes regularly to that code base. So let's say once I put the whole code base into its memory, it tries to analyze it and does stuff. But let's say a lot of developers are making changes to that code base. So this particular agent, does it take the whole code base again and again because there are changes in the same code base into its memory again, or does it have the ability to identify only what has changed in particular pieces of code and only take those changes into account?
Joy, you want to answer that? She worked on that section of the problem. Joy, you there? Okay, so yeah, no, it's smart enough. We might be the agent might be few days behind, but this is again configurable based on how active the project is. It's smart enough kind of augment its knowledge base with the delta changes that you're making in the repository. I mean, you're absolutely right. This is a real world problem. We thought through this. So it will update its knowledge base as other developers making changes. It is, again, we are not, we did some interesting stuff to avoid the context window limit. We don't. It's impossible to feed the entire code base to the model, because sometimes it will not fit. Most of the time it doesn't fit. So we're doing some interesting engineering stuff there to minimize the footprint. There is some complexity in there, but we kind of managed. So we don't send the entire code. And this is also another very interesting set of challenges that we have to figure it out down the line. We have a solution, but I'm not happy with that. Is we don't necessarily send code, copy paste code files or read code file and it. The problem with typically, if some of you have noticed this, it might get a bit technical here, is it's not even the context window limit. Even if you fit everything in the context window limit, typically what I've noticed that models remember the initial few things and at the tail end of few things. It completely forgets the middle. So even if you fit in, that really doesn't help because it doesn't remember all that stuff. I'm sure the models will get better, but today that's the problem. So we do summarization. We do interesting techniques to summarize the code before we send it out to avoid those problems. I hope that answers your question. Yeah. So we fork. We do every issue that. So one of the things. This is great. We're talking about this. This agent will never commit to the master or main branch. It never. We designed it such a way because we always have human in the loop interaction, even if this is autonomous agent and smart and all that. So everything it does is on branch, everything. And so somebody at the end needs to review and merge it to the main branch.
But yeah, so that's the answer to the question that Raymond asked in the chat box. He said, um, about multiple developers, and fucking your repo. All right, so I think we spent 1 hour on this call, and then I believe that we already have like a complete everyone on this call already like have an overview and understanding of how the Tublian operating system works, how this autonomous AI. I mean, there have been a lot of conversations around comparing it to GitHub Copilots, or just debugging with ChatGPT, but you've seen that is very different from that. This is like an agent, like someone, another programmer working with you alongside while you also work on your stuff. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. If you are not a member of our community, please, I would like to invite you to join us on Discord. Um, Please, if you're not on Discord, can you please like signify? Let me know. I'm assuming that everybody here is already on Discord. But if you're not on Discord, please, I don't have.
Precious, let's keep a note of this. Whoever joined here, I want to make sure these people, I mean, we here get the first access to the agent.
Oh, okay. So, I don't know how to. Okay, so you all registered. I don't know if you didn't register for the session. I think you might have to go back and register. So, but everyone that registered for the session, I think about 52 people registered for the session. So we'll just give access to the 52 people that registered for the session. So once the download
Mhm.
link is out, we'll be sending it to everyone that for the session. So if you are here and you didn't register for the session, please reach out to me on Discord, or go back to the link and register for the session. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. We really appreciate you coming out today. Hi, Josh. Josh, you want to say something?
Hello, sorry. Apologies for the noise on the background. Can you all hear me, please?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. It's actually a kind of question based on the past challenges that we've had. I mean, I participated in one of this challenge, and I kind of I think I came third position in this challenge, but I was expecting some match to be shared, and I actually haven't gotten mine, so I'm kind of concerned.
Oh, okay. So,
Which
yeah, Josh, please send me a message on Discord because maybe we lost track or something because we always like keep and we distribute in batches. So, yeah, sometimes it takes a long time to get to you. Like, I mean, some people from last year just got theirs last week in India. So yeah, so just send me a
Yeah,
message on
be
Discord.
rest assured you will get it. Sorry, we like I said, we're a very small team. We might be running behind a little bit.
Yeah, please. So sorry about that. So sorry about that. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for coming out.
All right, thanks everyone. Take
Uh,
care.
enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, bye. Bye.